Well, hello all. Welcome to the channel, RPG with DBJ. This week, we're going to talk dreams. Today is Monster Monday, so all creatives, community, kind folks, welcome. Let's deep dive for our hour-long live stream as we talk dreams and imaginations, nightmares, and thought thieves. All right, so the purpose of today for tabletop gaming talk is that we are going to talk about dreams and about imagination and about thoughts and such. Dead Man Storyteller popping into the Discord chat, the 5e Dream Eater creature, and there's plenty of Dream Eaters. There's the classic hag, the night hag, I believe, that steals people's dreams, and there's plenty of folklore about creatures that come in the night and invade your dreams and try to or insert nightmares. There are even the native peoples of the states. You can go to places today and buy dream catchers, things that are able to capture the nightmares and the evil thoughts as you sleep and ensure that they are not invasive, that they do not, capture your imagination and take your personality away. But more so when it comes to dreams, and I think inserting them into role-playing games, we do have a little bit of a difficulty, but there's a way to get past them. The first thing, the difficult part of inserting dream stealing and nightmarish creatures that are purely psychic is, when do you do it? Is it kind of a cheat to say, oh, when your character sleeps, you're being attacked by this thing, especially if it's only like a psychological or on a psychic plane of existence? Sure, some players may balk at the idea of being assaulted or attacked at their weakest moment, but again, it's a great way to add in some context to an attack, which in many ways, many games find this to be their weakest point of contact with the player characters, right? Physically, player characters tend to be, in many role-playing games, at their best. It's the combat is the largest section in the game, in most games, and many games tend to evoke a very a lot of physicality amongst player characters and the adversaries. So having something that is psychic in a game that does not focus on that could be taking advantage a little bit, hitting them in their weakest point. But at the same time, I find that this is also opens up other avenues, because contextually, why they're being attacked and the ramifications of them being attacked may be a great method to draw out some more storytelling elements. Is a thought eater or like a night hag or something trying to capture a specific piece of information from the player characters as opposed to just causing damage? Are they pulling from them memories and stealing their memories, or even stealing from them particular thoughts or emotions? Maybe it's stealing their loyalty or their love or their sense of justice or their devotion to another family member or something. So you could really, while very difficult to gamify, you could really have a context where the players could the upright and noble paladin character ends up losing his loyalty or something as damage from the say a dreamlike creature or nightmarish creature. So now the player character, the player gets to act out their character's lack of loyalty to their friends and family and their faction and such. And that might be kind of a cool way to add a little bit of a twist to the game, as opposed to just doing, hey, you suffer damage. And of course, some games hand out bennies, right? Like hero points, inspiration, moxie, fate points, or something like that. And maybe you can hand over some of those for the players to engage in those things. And as well, contextually, you can make things that don't normally have a physical component, such as the memory of a pet or something, and now you can make that a physical thing, much like the spell effect in the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, a person can steal someone's thoughts and turn it into a physical object and then buy and sell and trade those physical objects. That's a possibility of doing it as well. Now, Rickard says, so since last week, I've been re-listening to Altered Carbon. In it, they describe a crime where you skim someone's mind when they get transmitted into a new stack. So you get mind bites of that person, and that might be the economic that might be the economy of a dream world where maybe the PCs must psychically go into a dreamlike state or world, or in our physical world, there may be the ability to take those like you said, skimming off the top of someone's mind or creating a situation for someone to go into a dream state and then skim those thoughts while they're in that dream state, much like telling someone not to think about pink elephants, and all of a sudden their mind starts to think of pink elephants, and then it gets them into that mind state, and then skim the idea of pink elephants off of their mind, which might be kind of strange for, say, the waking moment. The PCs are having conversations with NPCs that keep bringing up very strange and odd subject matter. They're like, I just wanted to buy a new sword, and he's talking about green mountains and blue flames. I don't understand what this guy's talking about. And then they go to sleep and start to dream about those areas and locations, and that might be the reason to get them to dream about it, and then skim that idea off the top of their brain and then sell it and stuff, which in many ways would be pretty cool to have like creatures that are like agents of thought thieves that are going out there to find secrets in this world. So Rickard goes on to say, Inception also comes to mind if we're talking about going into a dream. And now in your setting, you can decide how that weird barrier between physicality and dreamlike. For example, you could make the claim that any character that goes into a dreamlike world brings with them the idea of who they are. So in the dream world, they retain all of their physical abilities, but they are technically in a dream world. So the paladin, the warriors, the rogues and thieves, or whatever, the spellcasters, the psychics, the alien warriors, or whatever, they go into the dream world and just retain all their physical abilities, and you could just play the game just as is, but you're in the dream worlds. Now, on the other hand, you could do it in the manner of your physical body stays back and your mind takes with it all of your mental stats, and we're going to use your mental stats as for your physicality. So using Dungeons and Dragons as a backdrop, your intelligence could represent your strength, your wisdom could represent your dexterity, your charisma could represent your constitution. You could either use all the characters' hit points and armor class as needed, or kind of do like a little bit of a transference, meaning that the more mental or intelligent characters maybe have a higher ability to survive than the ones who aren't. You could do it that way. There's all many ways of doing it. I'm sure there are rules in the old Planescape setting for Dungeons and Dragons that dealt with that, going like ethereal and astrally projecting yourself. So yeah, and now we're going to get into this later on in the week, but Inception brings up the idea of what environment you're in, and that there are the contextualization of the environment could very well be from, say, a particular victim, or created upon a number of minds that create particular locations, whether they're nightmarish locations or ones of peace, or whether the locations are different based on people having a daydream versus like that deep REM sleep or something. And you could have different rules for those environments, but we're going to get into that on Third Pillar Thursday, for exploration and such. But for right now, let's talk about some of our some dream-like enemies. Now, of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that our dream state enemies need to be to exist only in a dream state, right? They can absolutely be physical beings they just happen to have the ability to go into and delve into and steal mindsets and dreams, maybe memories and things of that nature. Rickard says, if we sidetrack to Thursday, you can have a lot of environment effects of a dreamscape. Using the Inception example, rooms twisting and shifting around. Hell yeah. I mean, honestly, there in a dream, there's no reason for you to have to say, oh, you're in a regular, let's say, of someone's bedroom, and there's like a bed, and maybe you could even throw in a television, and there's a fishbowl in the corner, and there's drawers, and oh, out the window, out the left window to the east or something, there's an ocean. You see fish swimming by, and across the room on the right side to the west, you see nothing but like mountains and snow and such, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly, Rickard. Like, yeah, actual nightmares. Yeah, like the folklore creature, not the dream kind. Yeah, and now game wise, we know of there are nightmares, meaning like mare, like the horse nightmare, and there's also the night hag that steals dreams, and there's I know folklore. Come on, dead man, don't leave me hanging here. I know that folklore, there's a ton of creatures that like they do strange things, like they'll sit on your chest, much like we used to think of cats as doing that, stealing your breath away. um, there are certain, I'm sure there are certain nightmarish creatures that come about through spirits. And yeah, thank you there, Rickard. Yeah, the mayor sitting, there's the image. I clicked. There's the image of someone sitting on someone's chest, the nightmare. And what a strange but odd way to have an encounter with something, because on one hand, you could make the claim that this creature may not have a physical form, or the PCs have to wait for it to say come into the physical world to go after it or attack it. And then you know, or you could split the party where some of the players are trying to track this thing down physically, and then on one hand they need to go into put themselves into a dream state to actually go after its, like the physical form could be its avatar, where its true mental form is much bigger or more monstrous, much like a tentacle creature reaching through another dimension. In our world, we see the tentacle. In the other dream world, we see the other 30 tentacles plus its body, plus its tail, you know, plus its a haven filled with nothing else but its minions and such. Like, it could very much well be like that. Yeah, Rickard goes on to say it could just be that a mayor is haunting a small village, draining the inhabitants of energy and life force while they sleep. And again, the PCs might know that, but the people there might be some contention. Like, some may say, no, they're just having bad dreams. It's not a big deal. It'll pass. And some others are like, it's a disease and it's spreading, or it's a parasite. And, you know, of course, you've got the old oracle, and the old blind oracle is like, no, it is a nightmare. It is a physical thing that sits upon your chest and drains your life from you as you sleep. And everyone's like, old lady, go back to where you came from, right? I mean, the PCs might be aware of it, but the public might not be, and may not approve of their tracking methods, going into people's homes and watching, or any number of things, right? That's a possibility. And as well as the fact that as more and more victims start suffering more and more of the losses of memory and lack of sleep, or whatever symptoms there are, they might become the adversaries to the PCs, but the public doesn't understand it, right? And I like the concept of, yeah, give the players all the information, but the rest of the world does not believe it, or doesn't understand it, or may disagree with their tactics or something. Deadman says there was a movie with a cat fighting a mare to protect the humans that were caring for it. I don't remember a movie like that. I'm sure it exists. someone's gonna have to deep dive for that one. But yes, uh, I think those of us that have owned pets have seen pets stare at the walls and bounce off the walls. And sometimes, there's this, there's the idea like, oh, maybe the pets are watching ghosts or something that we can't see. So yeah, very much a possibility. Um, yeah, Rickard says it allows you to make players want to not fall asleep. Yeah, all those PCs that, what is it, the the 5-minute gaming day where the player characters are like, let's fight a thing. Oh, we killed it. All right, I want to get back my spell slots. Let's take another 8-hour break or something. And you're like, wait a minute. People don't walk around for 10 minutes and then take 8-hour naps all day long, right? But putting something like that in the game, especially at like lower levels, or even some players that are like, wait, what? There's a dream creature, and if we fall asleep, it's going to attack us, a la Nightmare on Elm Street, that we don't want to take short or long rests, or even more horrible. Sure, you go to sit down for hey, I'm going to stay watch. You guys go to sleep. Fine. All right, you get ready to sit watch and make a con roll. You fall asleep. Huh, what the? How long was I asleep? Well, everyone else just thought you nodded off for like 5 minutes, but really you were in there for hours being chased by a nightmarish creature, Yep, absolutely. Rickard says, yeah, to be fair, if you've used up all your spell slots, you're probably quite drained. And I definitely agree with you. Now, this entire week, we're the first thing is you got to do the session 0 thing, right? Or at least meaning like talk about it with your players. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, I have this secret thing I want to do. Can I talk to you guys about giving away the secret to my adventure? Not that specifically, but meaning to talk with the players and say, in this game, you are going to be tested mentally and physically, emotionally, or something. Like, you could be vague about it without necessarily saying, hey, I'm going to give away the fact that you're going to have to go after nightmare creatures. Yeah. Dead Man says the movie was called Cat's Eye, written by Stephen King. I did not know that. Oh, I did not know that. Wow. I didn't know it was a Stephen King movie. Okay. That's awesome. And what a great way to give a hint as to what's coming, especially if a player has a familiar or a pet, and that familiar or pet like either awakens them while they're sleeping, or like looks off into the distance and looks like they're going after something that's not really there. And then the PCs end up finding out that there's something nightmarish tracking them or assaulting them or trying to go after them. And a player wakes up and it's like, I don't remember where I came from. Why don't I remember where I came from? Or something, Rickard says, especially to be, talking about, to be fair, if you've used up all your spell slots, you're probably quite drained, especially if you've used them up in 10 minutes of in-game time. Yeah. Sure, you can go Nova with your spells, but afterwards you're like, oh man, boy, I'm tired. And then the nightmare creatures or thought creatures or whatever other psychic enemies are around are like, yeah, just fall asleep for me now. 1985 film. Wow, why don't I remember that film? I was a Stephen King fanatic back in the day. All right, so now another method, of course, of using dreams and such, and something that we can really we had a whole week where we talked about reskinning things. I like the idea of dream adversaries that exist in a world, and you don't have to explain why. You don't have to explain the physicality of what they are and why they exist. Much like a chimera having like the head of a dragon and a goat and a lion, like, or maybe some of them even have the tail of a serpent and wings. You're like, wait, a creature like that wouldn't exist. If you really have a world in which the physical and the mental combine together, and no matter whether the players go into a psychic world or whether these psychic creatures come into our world. I mean, you could have, I don't know, fish people that breathe our oxygen, but to them it feels like they're underwater, and their bubbles are coming out of their mouths and they're swaying around as if they're swimming in the water, but it's our oxygen, and you're like, that looks kind of odd or something. Or you could have creatures that defy 3 dimensions, so or spaces that don't defy 3-dimensionality, like the portable hole and bag of holding idea, but applying this to monsters or creatures or their havens and things. You don't necessarily have to have adversaries that have to have I think there should be a rationale for why they exist, but not necessarily a rationale in the physical sense of using physics and science to explain their existence. Meaning, like, for example, you could have a creature. People have a fear of heights, okay, and a fear of falling or something. You could very much have a creature that, if it swallows you, you end up falling for, like, you're falling from the sky, you're falling from thousands of feet in the air or something. Or you could have a creature that when it attacks you, you feel like you've been struck naked. And so instead of just simply causing a phobic effect, a fear effect, like, oh, I'm scared of it, instead maybe it fans the flames of your own internal fears, and that might be how this creature attacks you. Much like we talked about this before in the Netflix movie Bird's Eye, or at least Netflix here in the States. Bird Box, I apologize. Bird Box was the movie. There was a creature there that never physically touched anyone, but if you saw it, you were so overcome with trauma, that your mind would break and you would try to find the nearest thing to commit suicide. And the people who were already mentally off were out to try to get other people to see the creature, to see the light, to see that thing that is true reality. Rickard says, as you enter the tavern, you see the normal bustle of people. As you're about to step in, a mouse scampers beneath your legs, making a break for the tavern's kitchen. You feel a bit sorry for the thing, knowing how vicious tavern cats can be, but to your surprise, no cats come running. Taking another look around the room, you spot 5 cats sitting staring at the wall, their hair standing on edge, and one of them seems to be about to attack the wall. Yeah. It's you could very much layer your world. I like that description too. You could layer your world in many ways in which to say to the players, like, yeah, those things that you normally look at, like, no, this is something completely different, and foreshadow the idea that something nightmarish is coming after them. And also, these strange dream-like nightmare creatures might draw the players into a world of their own making, much like drawing the players into, say, a giant maze, like a hedge maze that they can't find their way out of. Or a nightmare creature draws the players into a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids environment, right? Players go to sleep and they wake up and they're like 6 inches tall, and that mouse and house cat are like dire sized or giant sized versions of domesticated animals, and the human beings don't even see the humans. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Rickard. Rickard says, going further with it. By the way, for anyone who is unaware, I've got to let you know that we are simulcasting both on YouTube and Discord, specifically Fantasy Grounds College Discord. And if you join Fantasy Grounds College, you can learn how to use Fantasy Grounds by taking a class with multiple administrators over there. Teachers hang out with the classmates, but The cool kids, us, we are hanging down in the boiler room, down in the bottom. So slide down on the left, you'll see us down there as well. And it's a place for you to post up like links and things where YouTube doesn't allow you to post links or images. But yeah, I mean, some of these adversaries may pull the PCs into a nightmare, a world of their own creation, and the PCs may have to navigate in that world, a world that doesn't apply to their own, own physics. A creature, here's an example, an aboleth or a Cthulhuoid creature could draw the PCs into an underwater kingdom. And you don't have to explain why the PCs can breathe underwater. This happens to be the nightmare that the PCs are drawn into, and they have to navigate through it in order to, get back to their biological bodies. This is also a great way to do a segue away from your normal adventuring. Instead of the PCs taking another 3-week trek across the broken landscape or something, when they go to sleep, they might be floating through clouds and, flying through the air towards the end of that rainbow, or might be pulled down into a deep ocean, or shrunk down to 6 inches tall and having to run between the legs of the titans, which just happen to be normal people in a open market square, and they're being hunted by like cats and dogs and rats and birds and things that are 10 times their size or something. PCs could be brought into a nightmarish realm of inside of a human body, going through the bloodstream and the heart and lungs and brain and such. Like you could make up something on the fly. It could be very MC Escher styled, where they're walking up infinite steps that run in circles, or walking upwards sideways along walls, or rooms that shift and turn. I know I'm heading towards Third Pillar Thursday right now, but in many ways that could be the lair, the environment that the creatures live in, so that the PCs are thrown into the contextualization of their enemy and not the other way around. And that'd be a great way to do a chase, much like the most recent movie, Doctor Strange, where in Doctor Strange, they're fighting through a really weird warping world where buildings twist and turn in on themselves in the sky. The streets bend in over top of them, and of course the PCs have to, maybe they apply through the physics because of the world they live in, but the creature that lives there, physics doesn't apply to them. That'd be kind of strange. Rickert goes on to say, you wake up in the middle of the night, finding yourself eye to eye with one of the tavern cats from earlier. It jumps on you as it seems you're awake, walking over to the opposite wall. Looking back at you, it starts scratching the walls, stopping briefly to give you a look over its shoulder. And there's something freakish about that. I don't know why, but like that description is just like the PCs are like, should we be following the cat? And and of course the people in the tavern are just like walking back and forth, completely ignoring this interaction as the cat looks back at the PC sitting at the table drinking their grog and like scratching the wall and such. That'd be awesome. And especially if the PCs say follow the cat to where it's looking at something, and they end up getting sucked into another world, but when they return, it's only been literally the blink of an eye, as the tavern patrons are like, why are you standing over here, sir? Your meal's ready. And players are like, we just had like 5 game sessions following this cat over to the wall, and we're just, what the hell? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Deadman. Deadman says Cat's Eye is on YouTube for $2.99. Well, thank you. Well, it is high. I guess I could watch. I could get some breakfast. I'll think it over. Another thing that's possible, and something that's very insidious, would be an invasion of the body snatchers type of idea when it comes to dreams and nightmares. And what I mean is the players know there's a dream adversary out there, and if they fight it, they have to go to sleep. But when they're awake, they have infested or infected or caused harm to innocent people around them, so that the innocent people that they're interacting with, you can see like bags under their eyes because they're not getting much sleep. Maybe there's thoughts are being implanted in their head, or these nightmarish creatures might be invading normal humans because they happen to have a weaker will, or they're using something to draw them into a everlasting loop. And when they've been drawn into this loop, this nightmarish loop, the adversaries can go into their bodies and come into the physical world, while the mental world of the innocent people, no, kitty, can't jump up there, not right now. Silly. I think the cat's listening to you, Rickard. Rickard says, as you come closer to the wall, you think you can see the wall bulge out in a demonic shape. You're unsure if it really happened, or if it was the moonlight playing tricks in the otherwise dark room. Yeah, yeah. I love that. I know it's a very simple physical trick, but I love the idea of like that stretchy fabric where they have makeup actors pushing through the stretchy fabric, and the physical walls is stretching out as you see fingers and faces pressed against it. I love that effect. It's so simple, but it's especially when you apply it to like a solid structure, like a plastered wall, or the side of a building, or even a vehicle or something like that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's eerie. It's not quite body horror, which I don't like. I mean, I'll watch body horror, but I'm not a really big body horror fan. And yeah, it is very eerie, and I like that, especially if you add in the fact even the PCs are the only ones that can see it, and no one else sees it, and they know there's something there. And it's like, when is it going to come through, break through the fabric of reality? There could be agents in the physical world. Okay, imagine this. The fear of something could then be giving energy to this thing that draws off the fear in the first place. There you go, Rickard. Yeah, make it even worse. Make only one PC see it. Yeah, waking up everyone while they're sleeping. Like, don't you see it? Don't you see this creature? And everyone's like, dude, sit down, drink, have your drink. The cats see it. Try to explain it. Don't you see the cats see it? And everyone's like, whatever. Sit down, man. Whatever. Yeah, everyone else is like, go back to sleep. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that a lot. Would that, because can you imagine the ravings? Because they're going to sound like a madman, right? Like these ravings of like, don't you see it in the wall? Don't you see the cats watching this thing? And everyone's like, you listen, don't make me make you go back to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep. I can't. And of course, how useless would it be for like the one character who just for some reason sleeps like a log, and it's like, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. I haven't seen any nightmarish creatures. I've been sound asleep, snoring, right? The one character, although it will make them feel like they're useless, but that would be pretty interesting. Like, this person's like, oh wow, I had a great night's sleep. Everyone else has got bags under their eyes, and they're just like, oh my god, did you see it? Oh yeah. The next morning, the panicked PC doesn't wake up. Oh shit. Oh, I love that so much, because how much the human mind will fill in the gaps. And while it's extremely difficult to actually contextualize, to draw, to hear the sounds of what a nightmare looks like, but to have someone having mad ravings about some nightmarish thing while they sleep, and then the next day they don't wake up, and all you see is like they're like they don't wake up, but their fingers are like in this like permanent like clawed state, and their eyes are wide. It looks like they've been screaming, but they just don't wake up. They're like dead. They're in like a rigor mortis type state. That would just be terrible. Or even, or worse yet, they're in their bedroll and they have the physical markings of someone who's been in a physical confrontation, but there's no evidence of it. Yeah, they look like they're in their terror, like they're in terror, but you can't rouse them. Yeah. Oh wow. Right now, like my mind is coming up with scenarios, and if someone were to describe the symptoms of that, the results of that, but not tell me what happened, they're the tavern cat sitting around the bed making mournful sounds. Ooh, that would be so crazy. Oh, I love it. And wow, maybe the PCs have to go to the old hag. Again, they have to return back to the old hag that predicted it when they first came into town or something. And the old hag is like, you're going to have to. Ricker says, "Welcome to me DMing. Hope you like horror." Oh shit, I love it. I love it so much. And horror, instilling horror in a tabletop game is so difficult. But it's, if you know the right elements to pull on, it's not. I think some people feel like horror is describing a very bestial monster. Sometimes that's not it. It's all the things around it. It's the creepy sounds, it's the quiet spaces, it's the quiet moments combined with the horror moments that I think is and knowing that pacing is very much has to do with horror. Now, not a lot of players might be into horror gaming. It's like, yeah, my life is already horrible. I just want to kill things. But for those who love horror, you know, any of the horror style games, Cult, Call of Cthulhu, I think it's up to like 7 editions now. And you know, using madness and fear elements from, say, Dungeons and Dragons, short-term, long-term madness, permanent madness, would really, really turn the tables on a game like that. Ricker says you have to go after the player's meta knowledge. You want the players to know what's coming, but not knowing how to avoid it, but letting them try to figure it out. The key is to have the players know what's happening, but not have the players know what's happening, but not the PCs. And you bring up a dirty word, which is meta knowledge, right? Metagaming, and you know that's a common tabletop RPG trope, right? Oh, we don't. My players are metagaming. I don't want them metagaming, but much like I'm gonna be off camera here for just a moment. Sorry about that, because I'm gonna pull this down while I talk about it. Let's see if I can get this into the image. There we go. This is like a Jenga tower. There's a game called Yes, Kitty. Yes, there's a game called Dread that uses this. Maybe it's too bright. There we go. Tumbling tower. Anyway, there's a game called Dread, and this is it's a very simplified role-playing game that uses the Jenga tower as its method of success or failure. Now, of course, the characters in the game are not playing tumbling tower blocks, right? But the players at the table feel the dread of having to pull yet one more block to measure their success or failure. And so playing with meta knowledge is very much a great tool to use, because we, the players at the table, know we in our own minds are super creative. We will imagine fears that are there or not there, but the characters, so then our fear as a player translates to the characters in the game, and that's really a great tool to use in horror. And it's a fine line, but yeah, very much so. I'm so with you, Rickard. I am so with you. He goes on to say that because that means the players have to act in character with their PCs, but they know every in character step makes them move further into trouble the players know is heading their way. Yeah. That's the thing, right? It's much like us watching a horror movie. We know the main characters in the horror movie are taking a step further into danger, and we're screaming at the screen like, "Don't do that! Where are you going? Why are you going off alone? Don't walk down the dark hallway, you idiot!" But on the other hand, we enjoy that as well, and it's much like having a player character where we there are some there are some silly tropes like, oh, I'm going to hide in the basement or I'm going to run up into the attic, right? And we always know you never go in the basement, you never go run up the stairs to escape danger, right? But you do it anyway because you just embrace it, you just embrace it. And yeah, that is a thing. I once Side note, I once played in a game where the game master forgot we as players drove to a cabin in the woods, basically. Your typical cabin in the woods. It wasn't really a cabin, it was more of a rundown mansion. And the game master forgot to remove our access to our automobiles that we drove to the mansion. And he almost face palmed when we were going to say, well, we're getting the hell out of here. We're going to get in our cars and drive away. And one of the players was like, sorry, guys. And you're like, what? I pulled the spark plugs. They were like, what? Yeah, I pulled the spark plugs because I want to get the phone number of this cute girl and I didn't want her leaving. And I was like, we were like, no, you didn't. And he pulled out a piece of paper that he passed to the game master earlier in the game. He was like, yeah, I did. And we were just like, oh no. The game master was like, yes. There's nowhere for you to run except in the dark woods. It was a funny moment because I think it wasn't done specifically to trap us, but it was a very fun moment. It was really cool how they did that. Deadman Storyteller says Eclipse Phase, Ravenloft, and many White Wolf games all include madness and insanity. And what a great way to introduce it to the player characters, right? If you're if let's say you wanted to do something different, you're like, man, we've played 17 sessions and we all love our characters, but let's do something a little different. Much like Ravenloft is its own world, its own micro plane of existence, kind of. So it's like a side world that incorporates those madness and insanity. You could very much say, okay, guys, you've crested the mountain pass, you've gone into this other world, and there's a cold, much like Rickert was talking about the cat staring at the wall and the cold wind that seems to go up your spine despite the warm air, and seeing shadows flit around in the corner of your eye and stuff, and people staring at you for no reason. And you could say, okay, guys, listen, we're going to use the madness rules in the DMG or the player's handbook or something. And you're like, everyone's like, really? Yeah, we're going to use the madness and sanity rules, and go, oh, cool. All right. Yeah, let's do a little twist on something. And so that might be something your players might want to really try out, or maybe they have never tried it out before and they're going, I don't know how this is going to work, but all right, Rickert says, I don't want my character to move into that dark room. Nope. But I have no character reason not to. So, yeah. Yeah, F it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Playing with the meta knowledge, especially when it's the I know I'm not supposed to touch the thing, but I'm going to touch it anyway. I know there's something in that chest sitting in the middle of the room, but I'm going to touch it anyway. Yeah, my character has no reason not to do the thing, but as a player, it's like, no. Do I have to grab the dice? No. Okay, you move closer. Okay, I go completely in the room. The door slams shut. No, where's the dice? Nope, don't grab the dice yet. What do you see? Does my dark vision work? No, you see nothing but outlines and silhouettes. I'm gonna move over to the edge of the room. You reach back to the door you just stepped through. You feel nothing. You don't feel the door. Matter of fact, you don't even feel walls. It feels like you're on an open plain and a cold wind blows across it. You feel something touch your leg. I reach down and grab it. They're just leaves, old foliage blowing across like you could just play with so many things, and the players will fill in the gaps. They will fill in their own horror, and I love that idea. I didn't think we would be talking about horror with dreams, but so soon, but yes, very much so. As a matter of fact, Palora, who's not with us today, said she watched movies like The Cell and Inception and Dreamscape and such, and those are great movies to pull from because they do have, each of them has their own bits of horror included in them, especially when you can fully realize something that we only can imagine in our brains, right? So the idea of, it's much like our idea of like Dante's Inferno and going to hell. You could create the physicality of something that you would fight in a horrible manner, much like being assaulted by your own guilt. Maybe there's as a young person, you were guilty because of the death of, say, one of your best friends, or there was a family fire or something, and suddenly now you fall asleep and members of your own family who have died long ago are now alive and awake, and there's like a burning inside of their eyes. They're literally belching out smoke as they attack you or something. And against you specifically, you, the player character, maybe they are so horrible that, they elicit fear in you. You might have that disadvantage on those fear attacks, but your other allies, maybe they aren't as afraid of it, but they have their own fears. Maybe someone else in the group has a fear of spiders, and when they see the giant spider, crawl down from the ceiling and try to, throw down a spider web and pull them up into their web that's, 80 feet in the air or something, maybe that PC is paralyzed with fear, but the other PCs can attack it. And that might be a great way to have some teamwork involved. Like your own fear, sorry, you cannot fight your own fear. You're just going to run. But other people's fears, you don't have that same context with them, so you're not as afraid of it and such. So I would love to play with that. Rickard says, quote, you've seen one pair of red eyes where the doorknob used to be. As you recoil from the door, more and more eyes open until the whole space where the door used to be is filled by eyes. And yeah. And could you imagine really the best way to solve it is, no, just imagine reaching through the doorknob. You could just go back out through the door. That actually might be the way to get out of this horrible scenario. But you have to reach towards these glowing eyes, and it's like, and of course, as PC, someone's going to say, "I bet it's a beholder." Someone else is like, "I bet it's a hydra," or someone else might say, like, "I bet it's like some kind of pit fiend from the nine hells or the plane of pandemonium or something." Right? You're going to have players helping you as the game master come up with the most nightmarish thing possible. And you may not even have any idea what it is. You might go, you know what, I'm just going to describe the scene and see what happens. And your players may they might literally be their own destruction by giving you the fuel you need to create the scenarios in the first place, which I so much love doing that. Yeah, Rickard says, so we're talking nightmares, so toughing it out is a solution. Yeah, much like fighting our own fears of heights. Like I'm pretty terrible when it comes to fears of heights. It just paralyzes me. Now, intellectually, I know I can walk over a 3-foot. I can stand on a 3-foot ledge that's only 2 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet in the air and go, nah, I'm fine with this. But you put me 10 stories in the air, no, thank you. No, thank you. And intellectually, I know hey, I could just walk along this thing and just be used to it. Dude, there are plenty of YouTube videos of people who do crazy stunts, and there are actually construction workers that work on the outer edges of buildings being constructed with nothing so much as like bare feet and wooden planks and bamboo and such. And oh my God, it like I feel my own gonads trying to suck up inside me, and yeah, no, right? So Rickard makes a point about toughing it out might be the solution, right? It's like you're faced with this nightmarish creature. It wants to chase you down, and you literally, the solution might be just closing your eyes and letting it take you. You know, it might mean accepting that horror inside of you to face the fear. It might take stepping off of the ledge, you know, to fall into a nothingness. Much like Indiana Jones, oh, the Last Crusade, where one of the traps was to take a leap of faith, to step off of a ledge, and Indiana stepped off the ledge and boom, stepped onto a flat surface instead of falling to his death because, excuse me, the way to get across was literally to walk across a ledge that was carved / painted to look um like it was invisible, like it was part of the environment and such. So solving some of the problems with these nightmares might literally be the way to get out of it. And what a great way to have, say, like a nightmare and its minions attacking the PCs, and one or more of your player characters are like, we keep fighting them and they keep spawning and we keep fighting more of them and they're spawning. There's not an end to it. And one of the PCs might say, wait a minute, maybe we're creating our own nightmare. Like we're being surrounded. If we keep this up, there's going to be thousands of them. Why don't we just stop? Why don't we stop fighting? Why don't we just close our eyes and let them take us? And, you know, of course, you're going to have players who are like, hells no. We need to fight them. We need to stop them from spawning. And of course, some of the others might be very creative and go, maybe we're spawning them ourselves. Maybe it is our own. It's our own fear. It's our own hubris. It's our own arrogance that makes us think that we can fight off our own fears. Maybe we have to accept our own fears, and that could very well be a way to solve it. Now, mind you, if that is the way to solve the situation, they might get used to trying to solve every situation that way. But doing it once or twice, I don't think would be a problem, especially if you foreshadow a lot of these elements as well. Ricker says the sphere for inspiration as opposed to the sphere of annihilation. Yeah, the sphere for inspiration that just keeps spawning more and more horrors and such. Now, what a great kind of place for some of these nightmare creatures to live. One cool way would be for these nightmares, these psychic creatures, to live inside of the minds and dreams and nightmares of the people in the community around them. Like, imagine, oh yeah, and the sphere was a movie. I like that movie. I know it didn't have the greatest ratings. I don't believe it has some of the greatest ratings, but for those who don't know, there's a movie called The Sphere. Samuel L. Jackson, I think Queen Latifah was in it. Some other people, Dustin Hoffman, I believe, as well. And anyway, long story short, there's a sphere that they find in a spaceship underwater, and the sphere has no noticeable way to get in it. They can't. They're using scientific methods to find out what it is, what it's made of. They can't find it out. But what it does have to do. Yeah, Rickard says they were given the power to make their dreams or wishes come true, and it ended up just spawning their nightmares. Yes, it spawned in many ways, it spawned their subconscious, And we as human beings are very complex creatures. So while our conscious mind may have some great ideas, our subconscious mind might have some pretty horrible things, right? Could you imagine the mind of, say, a emergency room tech, a doctor that works in an emergency room, right? Their conscious mind is someone who's dedicated themselves to saving lives, but their nightmare images might be of not being able to save anyone's life, right? They see things that no normal person in normal society should see, and they see these things every day. So yeah, it was Michael. Yeah, this Dead Man Storytellers, The Sphere was originally a novel by Michael Crichton. As a matter of fact, you can, although it probably was stolen, I listened to the audiobook on YouTube. It's for free. Or at least free as in maybe stolen by someone. I'm not exactly certain, but yes, if you listen to the audiobook version of it is available on YouTube. I don't know, it's maybe 8 to 13 hours long or something, but I've got a job where I can listen to things like that. But yes, the idea was that there was this sphere, and maybe in your setting, something or someone arrives to town with a thing that is able to spawn people's dreams and nightmares. And lo and behold, when the PCs look around, it could be a small town of, say, I don't know if this is literally a small town, but let's say there's 5,000 people that live in this town. Let's say it's pretty sizable in a medieval sense, but for Dungeons and Dragons, it's not a big deal, right? Let's say it's a medieval or medieval light town. It's a fantasy town, not medieval. It's a fantasy town. And there's 5,000 people. Or you could reduce the population to 1,000, or maybe reduce the population to 250. And the PCs end up looking around and they realize every single person here, every single one of them is their own worst enemy. That means we're surrounded. You're like, what's the population? Oh, about 250. There's 250 big bad evil guys and their minions and their nightmare landscapes around all of us. Oh no, the one kid that almost drowned in the lake now has some kind of aquatic nightmarish aboleth in his nightmare dreams, pulling you down into the deep reaches of a dark ocean. And another gentleman almost died in a small house fire before he was saved, choking on smoke and pulled out. And inside of his mind is a nightmare of a pit fiend pulled down into the depths of hell with geysers of fire and choking smoke around them. Like you could really ramp it up. And maybe a visitor from out of town or something was uncovered by a small group of children that went out into the woods and dug up this thing. Or maybe the dwarves had uncovered an Arkenstone type device or gemstone and brought it into town for it to be picked up maybe a week later from a jeweler or the noble family that's many miles away, and the PCs have to guard it. And this might itself be the catalyst. Thank you, Dead Man, for the wiki page for Sphere in the Fantasy Grounds Discord chat. You can have so much fun with that, especially considering that if you come up with a number of scenarios in which our dreams and wishes and also our nightmares and our fears can come true, much like I have a fear of snakes, you would never have to rationalize why the floor of the tavern is filled with snakes. It could just be from the nightmares of a person who has these fears of snakes and trying to quarantine the population in this town. Like, okay, everyone's going to have to go back to their own homes. And everyone's like, why? Because of the cat scratching at the wall? Really? Like, I think you're a little cuckoo, whatever. Don't listen. These adventurers, they're just strangers. They have no ties to our community. Everyone ignore what they're saying. Let's just go back to our homes and do our own things and go back to work. And PCs are like, no, you can't do this. Oh, that would be so sweet. So anyway, we've come to the hour mark. Of course, as we normally do, all week long, we take this theme. We're going to stretch it out all week long. Tomorrow, Discord Tuesday, we're going to talk about some gaming effects. World Building Wednesday, we're going to make a world where something like this exists. Although, as usual, we always bleed into other aspects of gaming. But World Building Wednesday, we're going to come up with a nightmare world. Let's construct a literal dream world and place our player characters in it. Third Pillar Thursday is about exploration and the environment. Of course, we're going to have to come up with a nightmare environment and how we can shift from one nightmare to another. Maybe some of the gaming effects. What happens if you have a fear of falling, and then a fear of drowning, and a fear of burning, and a fear of public speaking? Like a fear of spiders. We're going to throw some of those things in, and navigating some of our own, how to navigate nightmare realms. And of course, we've got Future Friday. And Future Friday, of course, we talk from modern gaming all the way up to the far future. And that's definitely going to be probably like a VR nightmare that we can bring our own. Imagine plugging yourself into a machine that can create a world wholly created by your own imagination. Rickard says, an artifact that makes people dream nightmares, feeding off their terror to fuel itself to spawn a portal to the 9 hells. Yeah. Oh yeah. What a great way for a cult to insinuate itself to bring about a portal to the 9 hells. And they promise you your wishes. Anything you dream about, you can get it. And the people, of course, place your hands. Yeah, the black egg. The person comes to town, old and feeble, and all you have to do is place your hands upon the black egg and think upon your dream. And someone dreams, and all of a sudden, someone hears coins in a pouch, shing, 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 and the coins shift. And they open up their pouch, and there's hundreds of gold coins in it. And they're like, wow. And someone else steps forward, and a small child, and presses and closes their eyes and squints real tight, puts their hands on the black egg. And suddenly a dog runs out of the woods and runs across everyone and licks the kid in the face. And everyone's like, that dog ran away years ago. I believe that dog should have been dead by now. Like, wow, he got their pet back, Yeah, Rickard says you have Wishmaster if you want to go for making your wish come true in a bad way. Yeah. Those gold coins bring about bad luck. Maybe that dog that was that ran away or died that came back to life is now killing people, right? Yeah. Oh, that would be little by little the wishes become nightmares for everyone, or maybe they become nightmares for everyone except the person that made the wish. So it brings context to the person who made the wish to say, I don't want to get rid of this wish. It benefits me. The little kid with the dog is like, the dog's my friend, and everyone's got pitchforks and torches and are like a mob that want to go kill the dog, Yeah. That dog is now Cujo. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Right. And of course the dog won't, the dog was spawned by a small child. Why would I kill the dog's like, I'm going to protect the child. And the people, ooh, Pet Cemetery. Dead Man says the Pet Cemetery of Cujo. Yeah. Pretty nasty. So guys, thank you very much. And I don't know if you guys noticed the silly thumbnail with the house cat in the astronaut's uniform, but yeah, I thought I'd pick something silly for dreams because it's just so weird. Instead of licking the kid, it swallows that kid whole. Yeah, no, you're so wrong. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I understand today is a holiday here. Yeah, cats in space. about to go off on their adventure into space. We were just talking about cats. Maybe that cat is a fifth generation astronaut, spawned from his ancestors that scratched against the wall when the first nightmares came to town. But anyway, guys, everyone have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow. Going into the Discord.